We got Bill King with us, the king of college football talk, radio host, Nashville Sports Radio from 6 to 9. Bill, fast-moving situation, I guess, slows down a little bit today. This feels like the one day where there's no letter coming from a league or a statement coming from a school. You know, this is a day where the fast-moving situation where Texas and Oklahoma is joining the SEC. This is the one slow day. It's been an amazing week.
Really has. This is the biggest expansion in history, in modern history for sure. And I take modern history, Arkansas, South Carolina, 1992. And it's way different than the summer of 2010 when they were perhaps going out west. And there were some days when it felt like they actually were. Settled down some. And I guess the next meeting we have is the SEC presidents meet tomorrow and perhaps vote on this, which is going to be either 13-1, 14-0. And really the only question we have left, guys, is what year does this happen? And I'm pretty sure that behind the scenes, their target, the SEC's target, and Texas, Oklahoma's is 22. So one season from now, I think their quiet plan is we're going. Let's do it, and let's do it sooner.
I think what's been amazing to see in this last week, you know, the folks in Oklahoma and Texas and whomever was doing the conversing out of the SEC were incredibly good at keeping it under wraps. When you see the statements coming out from the commissioners, from the Pac-12, from the Big Ten, maybe not so much the ACC, like everybody else was completely caught off guard by this. And this continues to show how the SEC is just the most progressive league in all of college sports.
What's funny is all these media members saying they were hearing months ago about that is such a lie.
Sure they were.
That is such a lie. I'm telling you, this was kept so top secret. If this was something that people were aware of, boiling behind the scenes, you wouldn't have gotten through Big 12 Media Days a week prior in Arlington without this hit. I'm convinced nobody knew, other than the top CEOs at Oklahoma and Texas, and certainly Sankey and his group. But I don't think Bob Bowlesby. The other 8 schools, none of them. The 8 schools left in that league, none of them knew this was going on behind the scenes. None of them.
No, none of them knew, had even a clue. And talking about media members that said they've been hearing stuff for the last few months, I don't understand why they blatantly lie like that. What are you really getting out of there? Is anybody going to, your next hunch or your next breaking news, is it going to mean more because you apparently heard about something? I mean, what's the point of people lying about it? That's been the biggest thing to me. It's kind of rubbed me wrong.
I've got your answer. It might not be a precise answer, but I learned this because in 1992, and I was doing the same show. We were just doing an afternoon show back then. But leading up to it, there were a lot of rumors about Florida State. Florida State actually turned the SEC down. But Arkansas hit South Carolina. That wasn't a big secret. And it was just a formality. Roy Kramer had the big press conference, announced it, and then you got them. You got Arkansas and South Carolina. But here's what I've learned fast forward in 2010. And this went on for 6 weeks at least, the scare of and what would happen, and there were so many rumors. I noticed then on Twitter that for some reason the expansion topic, now expansion meaning leagues expanding, not expansion of the playoffs, leagues expanding, makes media members go nuts. They just lose their mind, and they start literally taking spaghetti and chucking it against the wall with no regard to their reputation or whether they're right or wrong. They just go nuts. I'll never forget. I had people DMing me. You know who was a major Twitter, I've got a scoop guy in 2010? Doug Gottlieb. Here's Doug Gottlieb, who knows nothing about college football. Nothing. No. Tweeting all these rumors about these teams going left and right. And that's when I realized the media goes nuts over this topic. For some reason, it puts them in a hypnotic state, and they cannot control themselves.
And it seems like everybody always has a different high-up source. Like high-up source in this organization, high-up source at this institution says, and none of them line up.
Their high-up source is a big slug of gentleman's jack. That's
exactly
what that is.
What it is.
Bill, one of the interests, we even just chatted about this briefly a moment ago. You know, the SEC uses the 2-letter abbreviations for each school, and Texas for so long is the UT that everybody refers to if you're not like living in Tennessee or in a state that borders them, but they're going to have to give that up. And that's just one thing, one aspect of the, you know, being the bully, the elbows up sort of college football program, taking yourself so seriously, all that bluster. Like, that's the first of the number of ways that Texas is the most blusteriest football program in the country, that they're just going to have to take their medicine. And look, what they've already understood that you can't be in the Big 12 and be a bully and get double shares and all that stuff in college sports any longer. It does not work that way, and they're not treated like that. Nobody is in the SEC.
Very true. They go from running a league to being another member. Now, there'll be a powerful member of the league. I'm not suggesting otherwise. It's Texas. But no. If anybody runs a league, it's Alabama. And that's not changing anytime within the next several hundred years, regardless of who the head coach is there. Here's another question, though. Back to the Big 12 media days, guys. And the supervisor of officials is his name, Gary Clark of the Big 12. I forget his name. But they asked him about the hook 'em down thing, and he says if directed at the other team, it's going to be a penalty. Do you think he would have had that same answer if he'd have known Texas wasn't even going to be in the league?
No, he wouldn't. Not in a long shot.
I mean, if I'm all these other teams in the league, I am horns down in every game. Let's see how many penalties get called now.
Oh, exactly. Let's see how much they will enforce it. And Bill, if what everybody's thinking, I mean, I'm on the same page as you. It's going to be 2022. It's too awkward to really stick with the league for 4 years. Yeah. And, you know, by start of 2022, I'm sure half of the other teams will have found other permanent homes as well. So for Texas and Oklahoma to break that contract, that penalty, I've seen somewhere around $78 million that they would owe the other institutions. How fast do they pay it back? Or do they drag their feet and just hope that there's not a league to pay back to?
Yes, you've touched on it. There's two angles. Number one, in no particular order, they just think the league's going to implode, and it might well. Most of those teams are not attractive for other leagues as it pertains to what they had in their current agreement, which is about $37 million a year in the Big 12. They're not attractive. They don't bring anything to another league. So I'm not sure. Some will end up in other leagues, but it probably won't be equal to what they're making now. And there's another theory. You got to remember, ESPN is just as much a part of this whole idea and occurrence as Sankey, as Oklahoma and Texas, because they write the checks because of the TV money. And it's pretty clear that they're going to explode, detonate the Longhorn Network, which has got 10 years left on the contract, which is about $150 million, guys. So there's a theory that they're going to take that money that they would have paid Texas and perhaps used it to pay off the Big 12. That is one theory, and I think Texas is totally okay with that because the Longhorn Network's not going to continue for very long.
Oklahoma is poised to compete in this league for, you know, under the way that they played out of there. There's any way that Oklahoma does not just compete. I'm not going to say they'll dominate over the SEC. You have a few other programs that they will be on the top echelon with, and I'll put Alabama still ahead of everybody else. It might take Texas some time. Oklahoma right now is ready to compete. I don't know if they'll win the league, but they'll be one of the better programs immediately right when they join.
Without question. They're recruiting on that level. They already recruit Texas like they're in Texas. You draw a 3-hour straight line due south from Norman, and you hit the Metroplex. they recruit the Metroplex like, again, we are the University of. That's only going to get better with the SEC emblem to sell. And they're going to be an issue. And guys, we don't know how they're going to break up the league and do quadrants or east-west or whatever. But A&M Oklahoma, obviously Oklahoma, Texas, A&M Texas, that's incredibly sexy on the football field.
Do you think Bedlam goes away? I don't think it does. And I don't think that the good of Oklahoma, the state of Oklahoma, like the OSU president talked about, is about those two teams needing to be in the same league. I think they probably need to play each other. That is one of the better rivalries, not just in football, but in really all of college sports. I don't think Bedlam goes away. Do you?
Wouldn't think so, but Oklahoma State is incredibly and just, barely injured. I mean, they are crushed. This is a historic move, and they're on the wrong end of it. And you do have that rivalry there, and they do obviously admit we're better together. But you've been told by Big Brother, who, by the way, you can't really even beat in football. They don't win Bedlam hardly at all. That we don't want you anymore. And we're not worried about some so-called rule that says we can't split up. There is no rule like that. And we're gone, and you're going to have to find a new home, and it's not going to be as nice as the home you're in right now. So there's going to be, guys, some feelings that have to be pacified, and I'm not sure. I mean, look at A&M. A&M's never going to get over Texas. They'll never be okay with Texas. I don't think Oklahoma State will be either. But I'd love to see him play. But as much as I like Gundy, he does not win. He never wins Bedlam. I think he's won like 2 of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, camp starts next week, Bill. We'll have college football games in just the blink of an eye. Can't wait to get there. Appreciate your time as always, man. Have a great rest of the week.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, guys.
And that's Bill King, Nashville Sports Radio. Joins us each Wednesday here on Halftime. If it is time for new gates, maybe some fence repairs at your home, get a hold of the Fence Man. They don't only do the large commercial jobs, can also do any kind of small residential repairs, wood privacy fence, vinyl fence, commercial or residential chain link, custom wrought iron fencing, anything like that. The Fence Man is the only one to call. Plus, they feature 18-month, same as cash financing. If it involves fencing, the Fence Man does it. 479-782-3936 for the Fence Man. He ain't afraid of no work. All right, we'll clean things up and put it on a wrap here with a nice cherry on the top on Halftime. Got anything for us? It's 877-377-6963.